Good question. What do you share with your wife about your work, and what don't you share with your wife about your work? And to answer that, I kind of want to back into it. Years ago, I read Corrie ten Boom's The Hiding Place, and there was a little vignette in the story where, as a little girl, she was with her father, and they were preparing to take a trip on a train, and they were standing on the platform, and she had heard some lewd term in the Dutch language. She didn't know what it was, and so she asked her father what it was, and he looked at her, and then he said to her, "Corrie, pick up the suitcase." And so she went to pick it up, and it was, of course, too heavy, and she couldn't pick it up. And he said, "Some things are too heavy for you to carry now. Let me carry it for you." In other words, as a child, there were things that she didn't know and she didn't hear. And so I want to say that when I went through some really hard times in early ministry and planting a church in Southern California, my children were young. And while my wife and I talked about those things, I did bring those things home, we talked about them, we never talked about them with the children. And the result is when I came to College Church and was there for 27 years, they always considered my little church in California, the church plant, that was the real church. That was the great church. Well, actually, it was an awful experience. But they loved that church because we understood that there are things that are too heavy for a child to carry. And if I had indeed talked about it, they would have hated the church, and it could have affected the whole trajectory of their life. Now, having said that, I make it a practice to share just about everything with my wife. And you say, why? Well, part of the rationale is that we're one flesh. We share the deepest intimacy. That's Genesis 2 and Ephesians 5. And so I keep very little, if anything, from my wife. And here's one of the things about if you have really deep intimacy, she's going to know if you're keeping something from her. Women are relationally far beyond men and able to intuit what's going on. And so let's say, for example, I've had, say, a dust-up with someone at church or a difficulty. If I hold that in, it'll affect my attention span, how I relate to her. She'll begin to sense it, and she'll begin to probe. And so I've learned that I just don't keep things from her. Now, my wife is one flesh. I share everything with her. And so I've made it a practice not to withhold anything from my wife. So if I'm dealing in a counseling session, I'll tell the people, I'll say, I share what I talk about with my wife. She's one flesh with me, so that they know that. And so I've never kept anything back from her. I would say the only time would be as if I was with elders and we had a mutual confidentiality about, say, a disciplinary matter within the church or some kind of move we're going to make, and we ask everyone to keep their counsel. I would tell my wife, I was at the elders tonight, and there's a few things I can't talk about because we're committed to confidentiality. But my wife knows everything, and I think it's one of the keys to a long, happy marriage.